What's going on, family? It's Sean. And tonight we're going to have a brief conversation about what's going on with energy, specifically the crisis that we see in energy. We're going to touch on a few different sectors of the world. So we are going to speak about Indonesia, what was going on in Prague, Japan, Germany, the United Kingdom, and that's about it. So we're going to speak about the problems they have, the government responses in the short term, and some of the longer things they are planning on doing. Allow you all just some more information. You all can decide for yourselves if you think these are smart ideas or if these are a little bit wacky, okay? Give me a second. I'm going to share my screen and we'll get into it. All right. So the first article we have is an energy crisis. Half of United Kingdom small businesses are at a risk of collapse. It says more than half, which is 54% of United Kingdom small and medium enterprises, which are also known as SMEs, are at risk of collapse from rising fuel and energy prices, a new report has found. According to the Small and Medium Enterprises Insights report from the insurance provider Simply Business, rising costs are now believed to be one of the greatest threats to their survival in 2022. This report also found that just over a third, or 36%, of respondents stated that tax and national insurance hikes are also one of their greatest concerns. This data, it surveyed over 1,000 small businesses, and it revealed that 49% of the respondents admitted that they'll be raising their prices this year in an attempt to offset increased expenditure. It says 1 in 5, or 21%, intend to raise prices by 6 to 10%. And for almost 1 in 10 owners, these increases could be as much as 20%. Remember, when a business, any type of business, a restaurant, anything has to do with food, any type of organization, somewhere that you frequent, once they raise those prices, there's about a 0% chance that those prices are going to come back down ever, because it's easier to raise prices than it is to bring them back down. If people get used to that price hike, it becomes normalized, right? That's that inflationary aspect, that psychological aspect of inflation. So that'll most likely be a permanent decrease in your purchasing power. Now, this article right here, this has to deal with pubs. So pubs specifically, it says James Alcock's Pub, which is Pig and Whistle Bistro in Beverly, has seen bills on electricity and gas increase from £2,900, which is the equivalent of $3,341, to £22,000, which would be the equivalent of $25,348 annually, due to the soaring cost of inflation and specifically energy cost. In this interview, he was quoted as saying that he's just found out it will cost him £125 a day just to turn the heat on in the winter. And he says that'll turn a small profit-making day into a huge loss-making day. Now, what are the solutions? What is the United Kingdom doing? So the United Kingdom is preparing a huge energy bailout that could cost the equivalent of $172 billion. The United Kingdom's new prime minister is reportedly preparing to commit as much as £150, or the equivalent, which is $172 billion, to shield households and businesses from soaring energy bills, increasing government borrowing at a time when investors are already on edge about the country's finances. The prime minister, which is Liz Truss, who earlier this week succeeded Boris Johnson, told lawmakers Wednesday that she would unveil her plans to tackle sky-high energy prices on Thursday. The prime minister is drawing up plans to freeze the average annual energy bill for households at around £2,500, so $2,860 for the next 2 years. That would mean bills rising by 27% from their current levels. but it'll keep the bills well below the 3,549 pounds or $3,954 threshold they would start to hit in October. Right? So there's the government getting involved. They're trying to find some solutions, government intervention. So let's just keep going around and see what other countries are doing. So in Germany, if you've been with us for a little bit, I did a video probably about 6 or 7 videos back where I kind of discussed what was going on with Nord Stream 1 and how Gazprom had basically hinted in that video that I did that they were going to close more pipelines. So Nord Stream 1 shut down on Friday. That's where Germany receives up to 80% of its natural gas from. So as a result of this, Germany's been in an energy crunch, but they are definitely in an energy crunch now because Gazprom has basically said that it's closed indefinitely. So this article here says that some Germans are resorting to cold showers and air drying laundry as Russian energy costs send electricity bills skyrocketing 600%. Okay. So it says Germans are cutting back on oil-fueled modern luxuries in hopes that rationing today can help prevent blackouts down the line as a bleak winter without Russian gas looms. Some residents say they're taking cold showers, air drying their laundry, and switching to LED light bulbs to deal with the energy crisis. Now, this has bled over into German companies. So some German companies are also implementing energy restrictions as a cost saving. They have a big manufacturing base over there. Electricity prices have soared more than 600%. Now, in Germany's Saxony region, some tenants have been banned from taking hot showers between the hours of 8 a.m. and 11 a.m. and 1 p.m. and 5 p.m. And after 9 p.m., this is according to a July Facebook post from a local housing cooperative. And in Hanover, hot showers are no longer permitted at public pools. So there's also the city of Hanover also published a list of restrictions in late July that included limiting office electronics such as printers, shutting off hot water in public sinks, turning off public fountains, and limiting room temperature in municipal buildings to a maximum of 68 degrees Fahrenheit. They said their aim is to reduce energy consumption by 15%. So it sounds, they're trying to do, we're seeing ways that people are trying to come back or that local municipalities or governments are trying to intervene. But the most important thing is to secure a good energy future for your population. So I don't really believe that they're doing that. So the German Chancellor Olaf Scholz has rejected calls for his government to commit to a longer-term extension of the life of the country's nuclear power plants and insisted that Europe's largest economy would have enough energy to get through the winter. Scholz was quoted as saying that Germans would rise above themselves and deal with the coming winter with boldness and bravery, and said that Germany was close to its goal of becoming independent from Russian gas exports, as gas storage facilities were 86% full on Wednesday. That's partly true. Like the storage facilities are around 80 to 86% full from what I have read, but they are not close from becoming independent from Russian gas exports as we stand today. Now, there is a big push for them to become independent. We'll see how it goes in the next 2 to 3 years. But currently, that's not true. So the economy minister in Germany, his name is Robert Habeck. And on Monday, he announced that 2 of the nuclear power plants would remain on standby, supported by the necessary staff, equipment, and security, but would not be producing electricity unless needed. So they have these. So Germany decided, I believe they had 12 nuclear power plants. They decided to shut them all down. And instead of opening them up, they've gone ahead and decided to continue down the path of closing all their nuclear power plants, but they're leaving 2 on standby in case of emergency. So they're not functioning. They're not providing any electricity currently as it is. but they're going to have 2 on standby. So we'll see how that works out. Now, sticking on nuclear power. Remember, Japan had the incident that happened at Fukushima in 2011. So that really put a dark hue over the use of nuclear power, right? Because people died, it damaged things, it polluted the water. So when you're close to something like that, that's people remember what happened most recently, right? But they are forging forward with having an energy independent future. So Japan Minister of the Economy, Trade, and Industry. His name is Yasutoshi Nishimura. He says that nuclear power will be a key for Japan's energy security as the country targets carbon neutrality. He states, I believe that nuclear power is important as we work towards carbon neutrality while ensuring energy security. We are in the direction of planning to increase the overall dependency level in nuclear energy. Nuclear power has often been touted as an important option for decarbonization. In May, Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida announced the country will take steps to restart idled nuclear power plants in efforts to stabilize energy supply and prices. That's a key point right there. So in Japan, they've decided we're going to restart the nuclear power plants. Germany has said we're shutting them down. We're going to keep 2 on standby. And I guarantee they won't open those unless they are just pushed to the brink. So Nishimura added that Japan has secured 10 plants for reactivation and is working towards reactivating 7 more nuclear power plants starting next year. The minister emphasized the importance of safety while acknowledging the 2011 Fukushima nuclear power station accident, when a massive earthquake and tsunami triggered the worst nuclear disaster since Chernobyl in 1986. Nishimura also said that the price of natural gas and the price of energy are soaring internationally. The energy market is tight, because he was speaking about how on Friday, Gazprom, Russia's state-owned energy giant, shut down Nord Stream 1. It also states here, if Japan reactivates 1 nuclear power plant, it produces 1 million tons worth of energy, making it possible for Japan to have secure energy and potentially be self-sufficient. It states that Japan currently depends on imports for 94% of its energy supply. It's crazy. 94%. So they've seen that. They're seeing that the world is getting a little bit tighter, kind of separating, going to a little bit more onshoring, taking a few steps to get away from globalization. And they are doing things to protect their future. Now, we're going to go back to Europe real quick. So France is reviving a disused gas pipeline to help out energy-strapped Germany after Russia shut down fuel flows. So France will restart a shuttered pipeline to send natural gas to Germany. The formerly east to west pipeline will deliver about 2% of Germany's gas needs over the colder months. Only 2% of energy. Germany doesn't expect that this will solve their gas problems, but they are trying to do something to help out Germany. In return for France's gas supplies, Germany will provide its neighbor with power if it runs short during the colder months. So that's the agreement. 2 energy-strapped nations trying to bargain with each other that they have each other's back. So we'll see. Now, I wanted to talk about real quick about all these measures that we're seeing, because there's a lot of relief measures. I hit on what Liz Truss was doing. Germany's getting involved with price caps. France is getting involved with price caps. This article states that Europe's energy crisis relief measures come with a high risk attached. So European governments are increasingly spending to shield households from surging energy prices, what they say driven by Russia's economic war. But that comes amid rising borrowing costs and mounting investor unease about swelling sovereign debt in some countries. To date, the European Union's 5 largest economies have announced support for households and less costly help for businesses, totaling 203 billion euros, or around $201 billion. These measures might keep millions of people from sliding into poverty, which is great, and thousands of businesses from going bust as energy bills soar, cushioning the crisis's impact on the economy and what governments hope backstopping political support for Ukraine. But this article also says this comes with risk. If they discourage recipients from cutting their gas consumption, that could lead to shortages of the fuel late this winter. And while the supporting measures aren't yet on par with the bailouts over the past 2 years, they are adding to government debt at a time when investors are demanding higher interest to finance budget deficits already swollen by pandemic-era spending. Basically, what this article is saying, and you can see the same thing that happened with the lockdowns when we did initial government stimulus all around the world. Some countries did larger as a percentage of their GDP than we did in the States. But when you pass out money, you maintain a particular level of demand without increasing the supply. So that keeps prices elevated. That's all that is. Germany's government on Sunday announced its third package of measures to help shield households from surging energy costs, bringing the total help so far instituted by Germany to 95 billion euros. Measures include a price cap on electricity, a cut in the value-added tax on natural gas, and the postponement of a rise in carbon emissions prices for 1 year. So they said that basically they've estimated so far that the combined cost of the German aid packages are worth about 2.7% of annual economic output. France has got in on this as well. France has price caps and grants to vulnerable households. It says so far that amounts to about 1.8% of their GDP. Italy, they have similar measures. They're saying it accounts for about 2.4% of their annual output. So that's a lot. That's a lot. Governments are scrambling before these colder months. Now, we did have some protests recently that happened. We had a protest in the Czech Republic. This article says there's about 70,000 demonstrators who are demanding a new gas deal with Russia and an end to sanctions over the war in Ukraine. Now, this article did label them as far right and extreme left elements. I don't know very much about what's going on over there. It's up to you all to make your own mind. But it says the 70,000 demonstrators gathered in Prague to protest at soaring energy bills and demand an end to sanctions against Russia over the war in Ukraine. So that's just another example of what's going on with unrest. We do have protests going on in Indonesia as well. The president, Joko Widodo, apologize if I butchered your name and you are a fan of this channel. But thousands of protesters have rallied in Indonesia's biggest cities, seeking to pile pressure on the government to reverse the country's first subsidized fuel price hike in 8 years amid soaring inflation. These protests are part of a series of demonstrations led by students and labor unions that police say could draw tens of thousands of people on the streets this week. It says workers are really suffering right now. People are saying the prices shouldn't have been raised. The Indonesian president said he had little choice when he announced on Saturday an increase in subsidized fuel prices by about 30%. It's an unpopular move overall, which of course you can expect it in a country of 270 million people. It says oil prices are now about 32% higher than they were a year ago. And as a result of these protests, thousands of police were deployed across Jakarta on Tuesday, many guarding petrol stations, fearing those sites would become targets of mounting anger over the price increase that unions say will hurt workers and the urban poor the most. Guys, same things that we've kind of been talking about, but it's just getting more... It's just getting into the news a little bit more because we're getting closer to the winter months. So I just wanted to update you all, also to let you all know we will be providing you guys content on a more consistent basis. We're going to shoot for at least 3 to 4 videos a week of coherent, research, unique information. If you guys have any ideas or things that you all want us to look into, put something in the comments below, or you guys can go ahead and send us an email directly. Other than that, I appreciate y'all, and I'll catch y'all in the next video. Take care.